right here at 8 o'clock on 90.1 KPFT. We have with us Austin Hanna. He's a University of Houston drama student, but he's also someone who's performed in numerous shows, including the Shakespeare Festival at Miller Outdoor Theater, the iconic festival every single year. And on the history side, also with the U of H connection, Robert Kimberly is going to be joining us on the show. He's somebody who's got a connection to Sig Bird, along with the Blaffer Museum, which is where he works.
Hey, everybody, this is Hayes Carl, and you're listening to KPFT Houston.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the entire United States. Good morning to the world. Good morning to every nook and cranny our 100,000 watt transmitter travels to because of the great work by two geniuses in the studio on Caroline. We are going to have a great program for you today. And you know, today is Thursday. And if it's Thursday, you know it's Aquino Day. So Aquino will be with us today. Houston Democracy Project, leader of the Houston Democracy Project. But before we get started with our program, let's go ahead and migrate ourselves to the genius, the geniuses in the studio. Good morning, Howard. Good morning,
Jack.
Jack.
Jack, get out of the cranny.
Oh man,
Jack, get out of the cranny, man.
We're gonna find Social Security up in the nook and cranny.
Well, I don't even know what a cranny is, but you know, it's okay. You look like you were having a good time in the cranny.
Well, what can I say? What can I say?
To laud some praises on Jack yesterday. We had a very difficult project to do. We had to remove a refrigerator from upstairs.
Mhm.
And first, you know, we were trying to pull it out of the racks and out of the room. And Jack had told me, he says, well, we ought to take the doors off. Well, we couldn't get it out of the room without taking the doors off. So Jack was right. I had to concede and say, yeah, you were right about that. Then we get it down the stairs and we're having to turn it every which way but loose. And Jack was saying, okay, well, I'm going to turn it this way. Okay, Jack, you're right. And he came through as a hero. You are my hero, Jack.
Wait a minute. Are you talking about the refrigerator that was in that control room with all the computers and stuff?
Yeah, there was a refrigerator back there with all in the engineering rack.
Why did you move that? Was it bad or something?
Yeah, it didn't work.
Okay. Oh,
so
wow.
It's now sitting on the corner of my house, waiting for the junk man to come get it. So.
That is funny.
It was just one of them the stairs turned, and it was a limited access over the top. And I think I did the right thing when I said, don't stand on the moving blankets because you will fall.
Yeah, and I would have too. So
well, that was a difficult move because making that bend, turning that corner right down the stairs always gives trouble. Yeah.
Actually, we tumbled it. We set it down and we turned it upside down, and then it went right side up as we got it out into the hall.
Oh, so just the right amount of flips, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Jack was directing, saying, okay, I'm going to turn it this way. I'm going to turn it that way. I'm going, oh, man, just don't let this thing fall either.
Yeah, they were on the downhill side.
Yeah, I was underneath it, so we really didn't want it to fall.
Oh, yeah. And not only that, that's some nice wood on the stairs. You don't want to mess that up, Jack.
We kind of marred it a little bit, but I think we'll be okay.
Uh-oh.
Jack, you got some wisdom for us on how to remove refrigerators.
Well, I have a strong back and a weak mind.
Oh, well, same here.
Okay, well, of course, you know, GOPs want to cut Social Security. Every time I hear the Republican budget wants to cut Social Security, I see red because it's yet another attack on the old, the disabled. Remember, us old farts vote these bums out. They're no good. They're threatening the well-being of people who worked for 50 or more years and paid into the system so others could be taken care of.
Yeah.
And you know, it's called human compassion, where you care about your fellow human beings' well-being, not a budget line item to be cut for the corporate benefit.
They have that in Washington. Compassion.
Not very much of it anymore.
No
It does show up.
compassion.
I don't think there's any up there. You know, they ran out some time ago.
Yes, they
So,
did. Yes, they did. Yes, they
oh,
did.
oh. Why don't they think of some nice things to do for Americans instead of all this? We're going to cut that. We're going to take this, and
Yeah, like
you know,
like once you reach 70, you don't pay any income tax at all. That would be
Yeah,
nice.
it would
When
be
you get
nice, but
60
now you,
years
you
old.
still pay income tax on your Social Security payment after a certain amount, right?
Yeah,
yes,
thank you to Ronald Reagan for that. He signed that bill into law.
Right.
The great Republican. Come on, man. This guy was he was just he wasn't Donald Trump,
he was
but
still a figurehead for the neoliberalists for sure.
oh yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, the
But
neocons were.
you know what I was thinking of last night, guys, and this is interesting because you know how we gave Trump hell because of how he handled COVID. I don't know if you guys remember, we had our own kind of COVID back in the 1980s, and it was called AIDS. And do you remember? And you remember how bad he was with AIDS? He did the
Yeah.
same kind of denialism that Trump did. Like, I think if you don't talk about it, it would somehow go away. And that's what he did for years, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, you know how that is.
Yeah,
But
we do.
but today we are honored once again. It's Thursday. And with us, we have the one and only leader and founder of the Houston Democracy Project. You need to go out to that site, houstondemocracyproject.com, and see all the followings and writings and spying on our system that we have from the great Neil Aquino. Good morning, Neil Aquino. Welcome again to Politics Done Right. How is my brother doing?
I'm doing well. Good morning. Good morning, studio. Good morning, global audience. And a great history of AIDS activism in New York City and those Reagan years is Let the Record Show, a political history of New York. Let the Record Show. It's a great history of all of it took to fight AIDS, and it's a tale of race and class and the illness, and it's super. It's just a great book. Let the Record Show: A Political History of ACT UP New York. You'll learn a whole lot about the fight against AIDS and Republican Reagan, and also plenty of resistance on our side of the aisle too.
hmm but you know whenever you're going to solve a problem like a pandemic or an epidemic, it takes leadership, especially one that is mostly at that point attacking a particular sect in our country that people just didn't care too much about. You know, it is amazing that happened. And you know what is more amazing to me, Neil? How much we forget. And that is a fear that I don't say fear, I don't believe in fear. That is a concern that we should have with the 2024 election. I am predicting that if we do our jobs, in other words, if progressives do their jobs, that we will get enough progressives and we will have a landslide in November. Because I cannot fathom the belief that the American citizenry, I came here in 1979. I came here at the height
Mm-hmm.
of progressive values taking hold, at the peak, I should say. And then came Reagan. I was too green then. I was a kid. I was too green to understand what Reagan really meant. And I actually had a little fondness for Reagan back in those days. Remember, I'm from Central America, and the cowboy talk and the false belief that one could lift themselves, everyone could lift themselves by their bootstraps, and all that kind of talk that Reagan used to do, even with the voodoo economics. Believe it or not, and that is what a lot of folks don't understand. To a particular group that it's really not doing well for, it can actually feel or seem to be, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. But it's nothing more than a facade. Go ahead, Neil.
No, that's and the nature of when the nature of these folks, the aggressive. When I was 16, I actually saw Ronald Reagan, Cincinnati's Fountain Square, 1984, and I had Reagan sign. You wouldn't even get the sign in. But those people started pushing me around. They grabbed the sign out of my hand. I was 16 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they started pushing me around. I made the news. But it was the same aggression. I was a 16-year-old kid, right? And the Gipper was up there. It was a hot day, summer in Cincinnati, and but that kind of aggression and violence has always been there. And Reagan's treatment of AIDS and Reagan's cruelty was a lot of people knew, but
But
they looked the other way. They
but
looked
he
the other
knew
way.
again that the way they could look the other way is Reagan knew how to be evil with class. And there's just something about when somebody is doing evil or doing wrong, if they do it with a smile, it just doesn't come over as badly as it does with Trump, who is doing a whole lot of the same things, but just without a smile or just with the caustic words that he uses. And that is what
It's
I think. Go ahead.
right. No, we're on a delay, tripping over each other a little bit for the audience. Or I'm on a delay, excuse me. And right. And what concerns me about Trump sometimes that there's no varnish to it. There's nothing. It's just outright cruelty, and it still sells. It doesn't even have to put the movie star glibness on it. It just sells. And every crude act, every terror thing just opens the window for what's possible. And we see that it's plenty possible, don't we?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I tell you one of the things that we have to be careful of, right? And that is whenever anybody feel like they are aggrieved, the animal nature in humanity raises its head. And that comes from that's anybody. And the thing that you have to make sure of is you have to ensure that you always come out truthfully in a manner that touches the people you're trying to reach. And I think that is where too often the Democratic Party, I'm not talking about the progressives, though, I think the progressives should do some of what AOC was attempting to do, and that is go to the Congress people in Appalachia and say, "Hey, invite me into your town and let's have debates. Let's talk. Let's people hear what we the progressives want to do for you, and then tell them what you want to do for them." And I mean, it's funny because one of the Appalachian Congress people accepted the offer, and soon after, when he realized that Acacia was serious about it, he backed out. Nope, can't have my people hearing what you have to offer because they may actually change their minds. And that is what I think where we have failed. And notice I've said collectively we have failed because, this isn't something that you can say, well, those guys aren't doing this. This is something that all of us have to do. And if one fail, we all fail. And it seems like Dr. John is on the line before we get started. So come on in, Dr. John. How are you doing this morning, sir?
Yep. Hey, good morning, Alberto. Dr. John here. Yeah, I wanted to get your view on I think the progressives need to embrace school choice. If they, a transformational event in a young person's life is an excellent education. And I had the high privilege of being the beneficiary of the taxpayers in California, where I went to the University of California. Had it not been for that, I'd be in construction somewhere in the Central Valley. Be that as it may, how about school choice vouchers? That would be really, I mean, I know it's a sort of a right of center Republican sort of platform, but it sure would be appealing, I think, to the working class, the less than fortunate folks.
Okay, let me tell you where I stand on that and why I stand on that. First of
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
in an ideal world, school choice would be great, right? Because school choice assumes that you have the choice. So I mean, and that's why it resonates. If you go into the Black community, if you go into the Latino community, school choice would win. And why would school choice win? Because if you go, I am in, my daughter went to high school at Kingwood High School. In this system at the time that she was going to school, there was Kingwood High, Kingwood Park High, there was Humble High, and there's a couple of others. But if you take a look at the support, where you had the best teachers, where you had the best of everything, even though it's a public school supposedly funded by all the same systems, uh, it turns out that Kingwood got all of the best. Now, let's say we went ahead and said, well, school choice. The math hurts you. And the math goes as the following. Uh, if school choice was that it was not a for profit thing, I think a lot of people would jump on it. But how do you get school choice for profit? You get school choice for profit by paying teachers less. You get school choice for profit by maximizing what the execs and the leaders of that school is going to get, and be gone the statistics, or rather the standards. There are studies out there for all to see that school choice as implemented today as a for-profit school system put out less. Again, first of all, they get their pickings of students so that they look fairly good, right? They get the students that whose parents are interested in them, students whose parents care. So if I live in a bad area, I care, and the first opportunity I get to go to school choice, I pick it. So there is some selective placing of students in those school choice schools, and still they do no better in the aggregate than public schools. So my thing is, if you want to talk about school choice, let's really talk about school choice where it's not for profit and it's a whole lot of different ideas coming to pass. But once you put the profit motive into school, the most important part of that school, and please tell me if you disagree, the most important part of that school is maintaining the profit motive for those who have built that school. Continue, Dr. John.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, no, I agree totally. It could only work in not-for-profit paradigm. And most schools, like Catholic schools, they're not-for-profit. They're 501c. They're or uh, like whether various all boys and all girls schools, whether religious or not, are not nonprofit entities. They don't, they don't. They're all 501c. I mean, there are some exceptions, I suppose, but I know I would never be in favor of into a for-profit entity. I mean, that's the business. The business is making money, and I know about
Right.
for-profit.
But the other thing about it is executive pay, right? Because if I want to, I can, and it's one of the reasons I can form a nonprofit that's there to fund very high executive pays. Look at the Red Cross, right? The CEO of the Red Cross, a nonprofit, makes $500,000. So when you're donating to the Red Cross, a large percentage of that goes to these high-powered executives at these 501c3. So the 501c3 says, yeah, your corporation doesn't pay any taxes, but that doesn't foreclose that the people who run that corporation are going to have these ridiculously high salaries relative to other CEOs in other small companies. So first of all, I think the sentiment, Dr. John, I think the sentiment for that, and I tell you, I did all the talking. Let me ask Neil to chime in. Neil.
Yeah, well, a good not-for-profit.
Well, thank you. I'll just say.
Hold on a second. Go ahead, Neil.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, there's a 4-second delay, guys. So
no, I'm sorry. The rural folks, they don't have any options. That's why the rural folks in Texas before now, they've just been so a governor Abbott is excessive and making them worry about everything but their own futures. These rural schools have any options, and what's gonna happen is that these religious schools are going to be funded, and the public schools are going to go, and rural folks are going to have no options but religious Bible schools with chaplains as counselors, and it's I I feel for them. I wish they wouldn't do it to themselves, but that's where it's headed with rural schools.
Yeah, and that is one thing, Dr. John, that I needed to have mentioned that I forgot. I'm glad that Neil brought that up, and that is in large cities like Houston and Dallas, Austin, El Paso, etc. There are options, right? Because you're so big, you really get school choice. But what happens though in our rural areas where you're unlikely to get choice because you're not going to get the coverage to make those salaries for these execs. And who's going to create a 501c3 out there for a school other than churches whose likely purpose would be to indoctrinate the students on their stuff? So, I mean, if we had rules like that says, we have to keep religion, and by the way, I don't have a problem with prayer and all that kind of stuff, but that we have to keep indoctrinations out of these things and follow strict rules as far as what an education ought to be as a society, then actually I couldn't, right now my goal is trying to tell minority communities that school choice is a clear and present danger. And the reason why is it's going to be the perfect way to use them as pawns. And a study out of, I think it was the University of Connecticut or one of these universities, show that the monies that our state gives to, or those states that have school choice give to the parents for that school choice, generally go to a whole bunch of rich people to offset their private schools that they send their kids to. So there you go, Dr. John. Anyway, Dr. John, anything else before I jump to Augie?
Okay. No, that's good. Love your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, brother. Have a great one, sir. All right, let's go to Augie. Augie, come on in.
Yeah.
Hey, well, like Dr. John said, I was lucky that when I grew up that we had the public schools, and it's the best choice is to have a public school because my school was 2 blocks away. Now with these voucher programs, your school might be on the other side of town that you want to go to, and like you said, they'll have an option of picking who they let into their schools. In the '60s, but man, I was lucky. Public schools and colleges, LBJ had funded education. When I went to college, at one time, Bronx University used to be free. And then when they started charging, I had a friend of mine whose brother went to Rice University. Tuition was free for him. But when my friend went, they started charging tuition. I think his tuition was $50 a semester. And it keeps going on up. I was going to say, well, the way they're doing it now, the Republicans, always used to be private schools, but taxpayers never had to pay for them until the Republicans recently do it now. But the way the Republicans do it now, they offer all this money to these private schools, but they don't give them any penalties if they misuse the funds. And the Chronicle, like I said previously, there were 2 private schools that when school started, there was signs at the door, closed, and they took all the money they got from the state to educate the kids, and they went off in the Caribbean. And they told the students, the parents, lots of luck finding a school after school already started, and their employees, lots of luck finding a job somewhere after school's already started. But we're going to have a good time in the Caribbean with the money Abbott gave us. And
that's exactly what it's all about. That the money that, I mean, they take the $8,000 or $9,000 every child that you have out of the public school system to give to the person who is going to supposedly have a choice with their kids. And we know who most of that is going to benefit: people with income, and people that, well, I always say we need to be our brother's keeper, and we need to learn that rather quickly. But Augie, I got some more calls that I got to jump to. Thank you for your perspective, my brother. All right.
Oh, thanks. Okay, bye.
Thank you, sir. Let's go to Janae. Janae, come on in.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning,
Hi,
Janae. How are you doing?
I'm great. I just wanted to call about what you're talking about, the public schools versus voucher system.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to point out that HISD has a perfectly great school choice. We already have school choices. My students, my children, I have a 13-year-old in 7th, and I have a high school student. Both of them have gone to a beautiful Montessori school in the Montrose, and we also have another Montessori school in Garden Oaks. Now, this school goes from pre-K all the way to 8th grade. It's very competitive to get into. It is what they call a lottery system to get into the school. So it's not just a zone school. It is also a school that people can apply from all over HISD to go to. And once they're in, they're in. And I don't know if you know anything about Montessori, but the way
My daughter went to Montessori. Yeah, my daughter went to Montessori school.
Okay, well, for our listeners, it's a school in which they cluster groups of children in multiple age groups: pre-K 3, 4 in kinder, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, and then 7th and 8th together. And in HISD, my daughter is in 7th grade with about 48 other students, which is unheard of for a middle school. And middle school is a really hard age group because they're just developing, they're creating their own relationships for the first time, really. And it's a place where you really need that hands-on learning, where when they learn something, they teach their other student, the younger student, or they do a group project, especially in middle school. And there's all kinds of high schools. We have wonderful, wonderful school choice high schools.
How much did it cost you to do that, Janae?
Nothing.
That's my point. I know, that's my point. That's the reason I asked that, right? Because I want folks.
They need to pay for their private school, just like my parents did. My parents sent me to private school because they didn't want me to go to HISD in the 80s and early 90s. If we could just invest in, like you said, our teachers who are burnt out, who are being scrutinized by the state right now. Everybody's terrified right now. All the principals are terrified. This regime that we have in our education system in Houston, Texas, needs to stop. The parents and the community that actually wants to help our students to grow and to learn needs to back behind the teachers because they're so stressed out. I tell my students, especially my older one, my high school student, you better get that work turned in. Your teacher's already stressed out. We don't want to stress them out anymore. We want to help them out.
Jenny, let me interrupt you. Jenny, let me interrupt you for a second. You are so right. And the reason I asked you how much it cost you is, you know what you show? You show that the public system serving the community can work. Now, here's what we should be talking about. We shouldn't be talking about external choices now. We should be talking about having advocates like you ask this most important question. Why is it you need a lottery and plus a little bit more to get your kid a great education in HISD when we are a rich state with a surplus that could do that for all its students who want it?
Yes. Well, number one, it's a little bit more of a hoop to jump through for a teacher to become a Montessori and certified teacher, number one. And so us as the PTO of our school actually raises funds every year to send some of our teachers to get fully certified Montessori.
Right.
So it's not the state. It's actually, I've always loved the phrase, and I'll probably botch it, But it wouldn't be wouldn't it be ironic if the Army had to hold a bake sale to buy a bomb?
You know that Neil, go ahead. I want Neil to address that. I want Neil to address that because that's a great statement, Jenny. Go ahead.
Right. Let me just say right. That is the saying. Right. Right. And you'll see it on you see it on bumper stickers. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's an old 60s saying, right? Because even though I was born in 75, you know, my parents had all these records, and I don't know why I got into Woody Guthrie, but, you know, and Arlo Guthrie and all those guys. So here we are, 2024, almost 2025, and we can't figure this out. This is oppression.
Thank you. Go ahead, Neil. Hey, Jenna, let me let Neil respond to you. Come on in, Neil.
So, right. Okay. So let me just two things with the school choice. You know, the side of that is the book banning, and how difficult it and the efforts to attack libraries. They're making sure that kids are not exposed to all sorts of ideas. So you can only go to the religious school, and even if you're not going to the religious school, you can't read. You know, they're making it more restrictive and about what you can read, and it's diverse, progressive authors. And also, I just want to remind folks, maybe part of it, Community Voices for Education, Ruth Kraft, Community Voices for Public Education. They have a website, and they have been leading the fight against the HISD takeover. Community Voices for Public Education, HoustonCVPE.org. They are at the school board meeting monthly. They're getting great crowds, 80, 90, 100 people signing up to speak or being there in support. But it's an action step you can take, and they have done a great job leading the fight. HoustonCP.org, and I encourage people to get involved.
Hey, Jenna, I really love what you had to offer here, and let people understand that yes, they can have choice within the public system, within the system that paid for by all our public dollars. But just like you've mentioned there, we don't need a bake sale for bombs. We shouldn't need a bake sale or a lottery to get our kids a good education. And if we decided to invest in that, like the investment we made in the small amount of schools which your kids were fortunate enough to attend within the public system, that cost you nothing more than the tax dollars that you spend daily in this state, because the education of your kids are not free. You paid for it with all that you've done with your property taxes, etc. Whether you rent or own a home, your property taxes that you pay directly or indirectly is what pays our teachers. A little bit more love for our teachers. Go ahead.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I want to interrupt you about the property taxes, because this was something that was brought up to me a week or so ago, or a couple of weeks ago, when we were all voting in the primaries, because I obviously did not vote on that one ticket. So I don't know what's on their ballot, because I didn't really look. But I was told by a person that I know that votes that way, and they said that what they're trying to do is to do away with property taxes, that it was on their ballot, or they're working towards the Republican Party, the GOP, to get rid of property taxes. Oh, so great, get rid of property taxes. And I'm like, well, how are we going to pay for school? So I don't know. I feel like it's a dismantling. It's a dismantling of public education. And I mean, as someone who went to private Christian school all their life, when I was a young girl, and I was just thinking about this recently, I have really struggled, and my brain just doesn't work with math very well. But I can tell you right now, and this just was a revelation to me just a few weeks ago, because it was Easter, and I was just really battling with a few of these things, because I even went to private university. So when I was in elementary school at Baptist Temple, and then Temple Oaks, both Heights and Oak Forest, they taught me all the books of the Bible, many scriptures. I knew all the commandments, all these things, the Beatitudes. I had them all memorized. Ask me if I had my multiplication table memorized.
No.
Ask me if I got taught. Yeah, no. I didn't get taught this high level of math that my children can do without even paper. It's amazing how they can do it. I didn't get taught that. I can tell you all these other stories. So I think it's really important for us to look at these private schools, these private voucher systems, and take a look. And do you want, are they even a better school than some of these HISD schools?
Well,
No.
actually, no. Let me tell you, Jenna, we should always work from data, and the data is out. In as much as school choice, the private schools have a choice of kids. Don't let them fool you. A lot of ways, even when they go into these minority communities to use these people as pawns, they know who to pick they know who to encourage to go to those schools to try to improve those numbers.
Or
but
give them a scholarship, or give them a scholarship to go to that school.
Right.
Thank you so much, sir. I gotta go. I gotta get my.
You have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful day.
day.
You too, Jenny. Let me just say these guys terrific. Go ahead, Neil. It seemed like you wanted to say something.
I do. It's very. This is a really deal. The property tax issue. There is an election on May 4th, a newly created elected position of Harris County Appraisal District. The district has existed, but now it's elected. It was Senator Paul Betancourt, the far-right senator, and the Republican legislature. They scheduled the election for May 4th, right? Not on primary runoff day or general election day, May 4th. Okay, 3 positions. They're all for the entire county. And they're hoping, just like with our city council at large, that they can get in their Republican slate. But this is even with a substantially turnout, because the runoff would be on June 1st. Early voting is April 22nd to April 30th, and election day is May 4th. I want to stress this because what we want to do is control the Harris County Appraisal District, strangle our property taxes so that we don't have the revenue. That is the plan. I can't stress enough, and folks who follow these things on our side of the aisle or the Democratic side of the aisle, it's not the side of the aisle of our listeners. This is a huge deal, and will be about the candidates to support. It's technically partisan, but this is a really big deal.
Neil, I'm into this stuff, and I learned that. I think Daniel just wrote a blog on it that I need to reblog on this issue with having two upcoming elections. It's amazing how many upcoming elections that we have. We have the runoff, we have that special election on May 4th, and then I think we have another one in June. So we are going to have to be very much on we have to be very much on air. Hey, somebody want us to give your contact information on air. HoustonDemocracyProject.com. And let me ask you one other thing, Neil. Is there your email is at the website for them to click and send you a message, correct? Because I don't want to just throw an email out there on audited ethos.
I'm happy to give it over there.
Okay, go ahead.
The email. Yeah, it's NAA61840@gmail.com. NAA61840@gmail.com. Happy to hear from everyone.
Repeat it again, please.
N is in Neil, AA61840@gmail.com.
Thank you very much, Neil. And let's see. Let's go to Bard. Bard has been holding for a little bit. Come on in, Bard. How you doing, my brother? Oops. Oh, we lost him. Hey, Bard, we accidentally dropped you. Please go ahead and call back, Bard. Please go ahead and call back. Let's go ahead and have Neil talk a little bit about what he was going to talk about this morning before we jump back to the phones when they get back. Come on in, Neil.
I appreciate that. So this is on the Houston Democracy Project blog, HoustonDemocracyProject.com, and I'll just take a couple minutes with this story. I'm part of a protest at Senator Cornyn's office every Tuesday, 11 to 1, 5300 Memorial Drive. and out there to visibly show up for democracy. We're complaining, we're against Senator Cornyn. Our main point increasingly is just seeing people like yourself willing to stand up for democracy, because sometimes people will say, I'm afraid to do that. I'm afraid to be out there and all that. So there's a gentleman who's been coming by for a long time. He's come by, I'd say 25 or 30 times. Well, more than that, but 25 or 30 times he's yelled at us. And the language he's used is so vile, I can't even repeat it in my own mind. It's that vile. We haven't heard in years. And he takes his hands off the wheel and gives us middle fingers, right? Years ago, he threw eggs at us. And one of our organizers, Maury, insisted needed to be punished, held to account. And the police at the time said, no, that's your fault. They did. They provoked him, right? You must have provoked, blamed the victim. They did that to us actually months ago when a man threw a big green softball from a 5th floor balcony. No, you provoked him. So Maury got a police sergeant, right? So we the police helped us in this instance. You don't have to overtell the story to tell the story accurately. The officer did help. She found a sergeant who referred it to a city prosecutor. Maury went to the prosecutor. First he said, no, come back Friday. Then came back Friday. He said, no, sit out there hours. She sat out there for a couple hours. He took the case. The man who threw a softball at us was charged with a misdemeanor, assault by threat, and he contested it. So a court date was set. So the court date was this Monday. It was almost 3 years of the incident, and he was convicted. We had film of it. And aggressive in the court, called Maury a loser in the court, and just like Trump, just a Trumpian disregard. This man was aggressive in the court. So what's the moral of the story? We show up. Corner 5300 Memorial Drive, 11:30 to 1 every Tuesday. Hurricane Harvey, when the corner water, 373 weeks. Most people are positive. Our positive reactions won. So never forget those good people are out there. They do outvoice and outshine the bad.
Thank you, Neil, for that. So the motto here.
We've got.
Yeah, I want to come in. I got to bring Bart in. The idea, though, is that Neil's group of folks, they never gave up. They made sure that person paid the price for their ill behavior. Bart, come on in.
Yes, sir. I want to see if I can get Neil in on this case with HPD. We got a big problem down there with these 262,000 rape and assault cases that were dismissed. The city called in the media on Tuesday off the record to try to cover this up, and they're trying to protect this chief Finner. So I just watched the news this morning, and sure enough, they got this old white lady that was the deputy director that retired. So they're trying to pin this on her. When the chief has known about this for 4 years, then they even said this on the news, and he told them to stop using this code, and he never followed up on it. So I want to see if Neil will go after these people.
Neil?
Well, so I'll say a couple things. So you're fact based. So let me be super refuting you. Right. So this happened. It seemed that they knew about it for years. There seems to have been pervasive rule break. You wish that people, you break the rules at your job, you might well be fired or disciplined. You wish that would happen. A committee was formed by Mayor Whitmire. To me, the chair of the committee is the former councilwoman Ellen Cohen, who's a very competent person, also a super establishment person and a super ally of Whitmire. So there was complaints from the Chronicle editorial board that the panel that Mayor Whitmire is not sufficiently independent. That gets Fuller's correct assertion. I think that they're protecting Finner. And I'll say this as an activist. Appreciate the confidence of the caller. I pick up all the things I can in my bandwidth, and this is a very city. And what I wish is that there was a larger network of people who are willing to take up these cases. That's a little bit outside my bandwidth, and I think it's important people involved in this work to say that. And there was time of George Floyd's murder. There was more action, and Mayor Turner and Chief Acevedo, more activist action, more anger. They very skillfully co-opted it, neutralized it, ignored it. Abby Kamen helped with this when she was chair of the Public Safety Committee at the time. Mayor Turner and Chief Acevedo were very skillful in doing that. And I just say with the call, I wish that there are people who are doing this work, and I wish there was a greater police accountability movement. My interest with the police usually has to do with how they protest and democracy-related issues and issues about the police union supporting election deniers, which is a threat to public safety. But that's how I approach the police, and I appreciate the caller's confidence and kindness in asking.
Yeah, I want to admit to Bart, I don't think you're going to find anybody that disagree with you that the whole crop. I mean, it's not only Finner, because Finner came after the fact but knew about it. But it's not only him. It's the whole litany of them, from the police union right back. And I would hope that you, Brother Bard, would look at it exactly as Neil and I are seeing it, understanding the corruption, the corruptness that occurs in our police department here. As Neil kind of walked around and didn't say it straight out, these guys come after activists. We are all activists here. We get more pain from the police officers trying to do good by people than a lot of folks doing a whole lot of wrong things. So you're not going if you're out here saying these guys need to be accountable, you have allies right here. I hope you mean all the bastards need to be, all of them need to be accountable. Because again, when we are out there, not just protesting, but trying to do the right thing by our brothers and sisters in the city of Houston, in the county, the state, and the country, some of the biggest obstacles usually turns out to be some of these right-wing police officers who think cracking skulls like they do in the third world. Well, I don't like calling my part of the world third world. In the parts of the world that I'm from, where we are used to getting skulls cracked when we go against the evil portions of the society. So again, we would be with you on that, Bart. I hope you are with us. Continue, my brother.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm 100%. My fear is that you guys are protecting this guy because he's black.
Okay, stop. No, brother. I don't interrupt too many times.
Okay.
But wait.
Okay.
Hold on. Stop. Now I'm concerned about what you just said. I'm concerned about what you said because it seems now like you want accountability for Finney, but earlier in reading between the lines of what you said, they want to pin it on this white woman. It's not a race issue, brother. It's an incompetence issue on all of them, not just on Finney, the recent chief who didn't start the program, but on all of them who implemented the program. And that is where I need you to be, because you did just have racial overtones there. Neil had none. You did. So let's be clear here. The whole damn bunch of them needs to be blasted. All of them from the top to the bottom. If you can tell me that you agree with that, I can say, okay, you're real. So do you agree with that or not?
Okay. I agree with that 100%. I want
Thank you,
all
brother.
these guys down.
I appreciate you. Bart, I appreciate you. No. There's no defense here for Finney. None.
It's protecting this guy.
No.
The media, propagandists, television stations are protecting this guy, and that's my point.
Brother, don't turn this into brother, don't turn this into a racial issue. These guys did wrong by our sisters. Okay? They did wrong by our sisters.
Get 'em
White
out of there.
sisters, black sisters, Latino sisters, Asian sisters, they did wrong by them. Let's keep it there. That's where it's at. Thank you, Bart. Have a good one. Let's go to Joe. Oh, go ahead, Neil.
Let me just briefly say, apologies to Joe. I'll be very quick. Putting aside the some of the angle of that call, at the time of George Floyd's murder, it seemed, Councilwoman Letitia Plummer tried. Councilwoman at large Councilwoman Letitia Plummer did try to hold the police accountable, and she was really her fellow Democratic council members really came after her, and you'd hope there'd have been a movement at the time. We really need average citizens to make these calls and hold these people accountable. It can't just be on activists. It needs to be on average folks.
Thank you, Bart. That is so true. Come on in, Joe.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning,
Hello?
brother. Talk to me.
Hey, I see you got your professional Democrat on the line with you today.
Say that again, Joe.
I hear you got your professional Democrat visiting with you today. Plugging his website.
Yeah. No, actually, don't call him a professional Democrat. Call him our progressive at large. Because remember,
I'll send my check then.
No, he only sees in left and right and blue and red, and I think he shot me down as a conspiracy theorist a time or two, and so I think professional
Joe.
professional.
Joe, let's do this. Let's do this, Joe. Joe, let's do this. Let's do this because you and I disagree on a lot, but I still have. I respect you, and I think Neil as well. What we try to do here is be able to converse. So don't hold anything. Look, my skin is about 50 millimeters thick. Okay, for the amount of crap I've had to take through the years. I wrote a book called Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. Racism didn't stop my smile, hope, or journey forward. The reason I wrote this book is for somebody like you as well, so that you can remember the other day we were talking and I said, you need to see you. First, you got mad at me and you said, you don't know who I am and you don't know my life. And I fessed up and I said, brother, you're right. But I would like to know that, right? And I want you to do the same. So you need to understand everything. That's how we start the communication.
I'll write a book.
Yes, you could. But anyway, go ahead, Joe.
I should write a book because I've been around. But yeah, what I wanted to say is that absentee voting, right, has been abolished in 88% of the world, right? Nearly 9/10 of the world has abolished absentee ballots, and I've noticed, at least for people who live in the country. If you live outside the country, they'll give you. It's complicated, but basically 9 out of 10 countries, if you live in the country, you have to go vote, right? Just because of the sheer amount of fraud and cheating and tainted elections that they've seen in their countries. But here, when you say let's get rid of some of this absentee voting, it seems to be a source of trouble. No, that's voter suppression here, right? That's voter suppression, and that's what these guys do, right? They redefine terms like voter suppression is actually let's strengthen voting security, or
Joe,
gender
Joe, I got to go to Brian.
That's dangerous hormones.
Joe, I got to go to Brian, but let me just tell you.
Yeah.
Joe, hold on. I got to go to Brian. Yeah. I think you made your point that you don't like absentee voting. You want all voting in person. And, that's fine. For you to come out and think that absentee voting has to be fraught with fraud, I could tell you a whole lot of systems that we use that will mimic absentee voting that nobody considers frauds. One of the systems where you can't get a lot of fraud is in the banking system, and we can go into some issues with that some other time. But let me just say this: absentee ballot.
False. That's
Okay.
false.
All right, we can go ahead.
Jimmy Carter signed a report saying that the absentee voting was the biggest source of
Okay.
of infidelity in elections.
Let's
Right?
just put it this way,
Rather
sir.
than benefit you,
Sir,
you sing one story.
there's technology. If you're an engineer or whatever, technology solve all problems. But I tell you what, Joe, let's talk about this another time, because I wasn't the best manager of time today. So thank you for calling, and I'll talk to you tomorrow, brother. Let's go to Derek real quick. And folks, I'm only going to give you 30 seconds each. Come on in, Derek, real quick. 30 seconds.
All right, thank you, Roberto. Thank you for telling that caller that you got to stop trying to paint one brush. You got to do a broad brush, because the United States in 1930, it was $1 billion in debt. And so then here we are, less than 100 years, she's $34 trillion of debt. Democrats didn't do it. I didn't do that alone. Republicans didn't do it alone. All of them did.
Thank you very much, Derek. Thank
All
you
right.
so kindly for bringing that up, brother. Got to go to Brian. Brian, you got 30 seconds.
Yeah, the city of Houston is in debt, and Neil is protecting Sylvester Turner. He's projected $460 million surplus. Okay, he didn't give the firefighters the raise that was voted in, and it's going to cost the city $635 million.
Thank you very much, Brian. Got to go, Brian. That's your 30 seconds. Let's go to Alistair. Alistair, 30 seconds.
Hey, brother, I just real quick wanted to say that with our lieutenant governor wanting to find all sorts of, he offered money to find voter fraud. And I believe it was John Fetterman that found voter fraud
On the Republican side.
on the Republican side. And our lovely lieutenant governor never paid up.
Thank you, brother. I mean, thank you, sister Alistair. That's great. And that is an absolute truth, a provable truth. Thank you. Hey, let me go to Neil to give a quick closer. Neil, give me a quick closer with your website.
Very good. Houston Democracy Project, HoustonDemocracyProject.com. In mid-May, I'm going to hold a Democracy Town Hall with the Houston Democracy Project. So we'll talk about that. Thanks to the audience. Thanks to the callers.
All right. Thank you very much, Neil. Let's jump to the studio.
Nothing for me. What you got, Jack?
All right. We got a classy smile and a bake sale for bonds.
Yay.
Yay.
Nothing over there.
Anyway, folks, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank all the great callers. Thank all the great listeners. Got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics and Right. And you guys know how I end this. Baby, I am what? Out.